It was supposed to be the happiest Christmas of my life. At 72, I had finally slowed down after decades of running my construction company. My wife had passed away 6 years earlier, leaving me with only one child, my daughter, Emily. Everything I had worked for was meant to become hers one day. The family home. The lake cabin. The investment accounts. The trust fund worth several $1,000,000. I never talked about money because I believed love should never depend on it. That Christmas proved how wrong I was. Emily insisted everyone celebrate at her new house. "You've done enough hosting, Dad," she said sweetly over the phone. "This year, we'll take care of everything." Her husband, Jason, greeted me with a quick handshake when I arrived. Inside, expensive decorations covered every corner. There was a massive Christmas tree. Designer ornaments. Luxury wrapped presents stacked almost to the ceiling. I smiled. Seeing my daughter happy was enough for me. Or so I thought. Dinner started beautifully. Everyone laughed. Emily's in-laws praised the food. Jason opened expensive wine. I quietly watched my grandchildren enjoy themselves. For a moment, I believed my wife would have loved seeing this. Then the gifts began. Emily handed enormous boxes to Jason's parents. A luxury watch. A diamond necklace. A weekend vacation package. The room exploded with excitement. They hugged Emily. They hugged Jason. Everyone clapped. Then Emily turned toward me. She paused. Looked around. Then laughed awkwardly. "Oh. I forgot to get you anything." The room became strangely quiet. Jason chuckled. "It's just Dad. He understands." Emily smiled. "We'll make it up next year." Nobody else said a word. Not even my grandchildren. I forced a smile. "It's all right." I zipped my winter jacket. Picked up my keys. And quietly walked out. No one followed me. No one stopped me. The drive home felt longer than ever. The empty passenger seat reminded me of my late wife. She always said one sentence. "People reveal themselves when they think they no longer need you." That night, I barely slept. Not because I wanted a present. I didn't care about gifts. I cared about respect. The next morning, I called my attorney. I'd like to make some changes. He didn't ask questions. We had worked together for over 25 years. That afternoon, every legal document was updated. Emily remained my daughter. But she was no longer the primary beneficiary. Instead, most of my estate would go into educational scholarships, veterans' charities, children's hospitals. My grandchildren would receive trust funds only after turning 30 and completing college. Emily and Jason would receive almost nothing. The documents were signed, witnessed, filed. As I left the attorney's office, my phone rang. "Emily." I answered. "Hi, sweetheart." She sounded nervous. "Dad. We're kind of in a financial emergency." "Oh. There was a problem with our business investment. We need $50,000. I leaned against my car. Funny timing. Yesterday. I was forgettable. Today. I was essential. I answered calmly. "I'm sorry. I can't help." Silence. Then. "Dad. You have plenty. I know. But today, I'm choosing not to." She sounded shocked. "What happened to you?" I almost laughed. Nothing had happened to me. Something had happened to her. Word spread through the family quickly. Apparently, I had become cold. Selfish. Difficult. Jason even called. "You embarrassed Emily." I replied calmly. I embarrassed her. Or did she embarrass herself? He hung up. 2 days later. My oldest grandson, Noah, knocked on my door. He was 16. Quiet. Respectful. I wanted to apologize. You didn't deserve that. I invited him inside. We talked for hours. Unlike everyone else. He never mentioned money. He only talked about family. When he left, I realized something. Not everyone in the next generation had forgotten kindness. Christmas passed. Then New Year's. Life became peaceful again. Until January. My attorney called. You should know something. Emily had contacted his office. She demanded copies of my estate documents. She claimed I was mentally unstable. She wanted control of my finances. I wasn't surprised. Greed always grows when it's fed. Fortunately, I had planned ahead. My doctor had completed a full mental evaluation just weeks earlier. Perfect health. Excellent memory. No concerns. Emily's claim failed instantly. That evening, she arrived at my house. For the first time in months. She came alone. No Jason. No excuses. Just tears. I'm sorry. I looked at her quietly. For what? She hesitated. For forgetting your gift. I shook my head. No. You're sorry because your plan failed. She couldn't answer. Silence often tells the truth words cannot. Finally she whispered. I don't want to lose you. I believed she meant it. But I also knew something else. People can love you. And still value your money more than your heart. Forgiveness doesn't erase wisdom. Over the following months, we slowly rebuilt our relationship. One lunch. Then another. Phone calls. Birthdays. Small conversations. No discussions about inheritance. Only family. Jason never apologized. He remained distant. That was his choice. Mine was peace. One afternoon, Noah visited again. He asked if I would teach him how I built my business. Every Saturday after that, we worked together. Accounting. Leadership. Construction. Integrity. Lessons no university could teach. Years later, when Noah graduated from college, he didn't ask for money. He asked for advice. That meant more than any gift. Eventually, I updated my estate one final time. Noah became executor of my charitable foundation. His younger sister received funding for medical school. The rest continued supporting scholarships for children who had lost parents. Emily was included. Not because she expected it. Because she had finally changed. She spent years volunteering beside me. Visiting veterans. Serving meals. Helping families after natural disasters. She slowly became the daughter her mother always believed she could be. One Christmas Eve, she handed me a tiny wrapped package. Inside was an old photograph. It showed me carrying her on my shoulders at age 5. On the back she had written, I spent years thinking money made someone valuable. You taught me that character is worth far more. I'm sorry it took me so long. I cried harder than I had in years. Because forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's allowing someone to become better than they once were. As for Jason, he eventually admitted something. The expensive gifts for his parents had all been purchased using my credit card without asking. Emily hadn't even known until after Christmas morning. He expected I would never notice. He was wrong. The charges were disputed. The money was recovered. And Jason spent months rebuilding everyone's trust. The greatest lesson wasn't about credit cards. Or inheritance. Or expensive Christmas presents. It was this. When people believe your generosity has no limits, they sometimes mistake kindness for weakness. But kindness without wisdom becomes permission. Respect is the greatest gift a family can give. And once respect disappears, no amount of money can ever buy it back. Jason tried hard to repair his image. He apologized to my grandchildren. He apologized to Emily. He even apologized to me. But trust is like glass. Once it's shattered, you can glue the pieces together, but the cracks never completely disappear. I accepted his apology. I simply chose not to forget the lesson. Months passed. Spring arrived. One Saturday morning, Noah walked into my workshop carrying an old toolbox. "I found Grandma's tools in the garage," he said. "Can you teach me how to build something?" For weeks, we worked side by side. Birdhouses. Bookshelves. A wooden dining table. Every nail we hammered reminded me of the years I had spent building not only houses, but a future for my family. One afternoon Noah looked at me and asked a question that caught me off guard. "Grandpa, were you ever angry enough to cut Mom out of your life forever?" I put my hammer down. I was hurt. Very hurt. But anger builds walls. Love builds bridges. The trick is knowing who deserves to cross them. He nodded quietly. I could tell he understood. A few months later, Emily invited me to dinner again. This time there were no luxury decorations. No expensive wine. No piles of flashy gifts. Just homemade soup. Fresh bread. And family. Before anyone touched the food, Emily stood up. She looked at everyone around the table. "I need to say something." Her voice trembled. "Last Christmas, I embarrassed my father. I let someone else's family become more important than the man who spent his entire life sacrificing for me." She looked directly at me. "I can never undo that day. But I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving I've changed." The room became silent. Even Jason lowered his head. For the first time, I believed every word she said. After dinner she handed me a small envelope. Inside wasn't a check. Or a legal document. It was every credit card connected to any account I had ever allowed her to use. Along with a handwritten note. "I never want money to come between us again." I smiled. That meant more than any expensive present ever could. Life slowly returned to normal. Then came another surprise. One afternoon my attorney called. "You might want to come by the office." When I arrived, he handed me a folder. Inside was a letter. Jason had voluntarily removed himself as trustee of every account connected to my estate. "He said your confidence has to be earned," my attorney explained. "He doesn't expect it. He wants to deserve it." That was the first decision Jason had ever made that impressed me. Over the next 3 years, our family changed. Emily started volunteering every weekend. Jason mentored young tradesmen who couldn't afford college. Noah graduated with honors and started his own engineering firm. His younger sister became a pediatric nurse. None of them asked me for money. Instead, they asked for advice. That was how I knew things were finally different. On my 75th birthday, they organized a simple family gathering. No rented ballroom. No expensive catering. Just a barbecue in my backyard. After dinner, Noah stood and raised a glass. "When I was younger," he said, "I thought Grandpa's greatest gift was his success. I was wrong. His greatest gift was teaching us that integrity is worth more than inheritance." Everyone applauded. I looked around the table. Emily was crying. Jason quietly squeezed her hand. My grandchildren smiled. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. Later that evening, Emily sat beside me on the porch. Dad. Do you regret changing your will? I looked at the sunset before answering. No. If I hadn't, none of us would have learned what truly mattered. She nodded slowly. You saved more than your money. You saved this family. A year later, I made one final visit to my attorney. He expected another major change. Instead, I surprised him. I'd like to add something. What is it? A letter. Not a legal instruction. A personal one. It would be opened only after I was gone. In that letter I wrote. If you're reading this, it means my journey has ended. I hope you remember that wealth is a tool, not a measure of love. I hope you never value people by what they can give you. And I hope every Christmas, before opening a single gift, you remember that the greatest presents can never be wrapped. My forgiveness. My lessons. My love. Years later, after I was gone, Noah told the family that reading that letter changed his life forever. The trust funded scholarships. The charities continued helping thousands of families. My grandchildren carried on the foundation with honesty and compassion. And every Christmas, before anyone exchanged gifts, they read one sentence from my letter aloud. Respect the people who stood beside you before you ever needed their money. That became our family's greatest tradition. Because expensive gifts eventually fade. Money comes and goes. But gratitude. Gratitude is the inheritance that lasts forever.